Liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I will note for the record that Ms. Chappelle is excused today, and good morning to Mr. McCafferty and Ms. Dickey.
Morning.
All right, we will dive right into our agenda. I will move to approve the minutes from the August 16th, 2023 board meeting.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sticken. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye, the ayes have it. The chair will recognize Mr. Hassani Wheat for the provisional ballot and authorization report. Good morning.
Good morning. Sonny Wheat, Registration Manager. In front of you, you have the September 12, 2023 primary election provisional verification summary. A total of 5 provisional ballots were cast during the September 12, 2023 primary election. All 5 provisional ballots were cast in accordance with Chapter 8 provisional voting of the Ohio Secretary of State's Election Official Manual, also known as Directive 2022-12, Directive 2023-03, House Bill 458, put forth by the 134th General Assembly, and the mandatory step-by-step process for examining provisional ballots, all of which were issued by the Ohio Secretary of State's office. Of the 5 provisional ballots, 4 were confirmed to be valid provisional ballots, and 1 was rejected as a not registered voter. There are no provisional ballots that were cast in the wrong precinct, correct location, that are eligible to be remade. Additionally, all provisionals that were cast had ballot identification listed on a provisional envelope. Before we get to the recommendation, I would like to briefly refer to the provisional reason summary, which provides a high-level overview of why voters may have voted provisionally. For this election, the breakdown is as follows. 3 voters requested an absentee ballot representing 60% of the total. 1 voter had an address change representing 20% of the total. And 1 voter was not registered, representing the remaining 20% of the total. The registration department is recommending that 4 provisional ballots from the September 12, 2023 primary election be approved for opening and tabulated.
Thank you, Mr. Wheat. We have the report before us. Board, what is your pleasure?
Okay. Now I have a
No
question.
question.
Your question?
Okay, then I move to authorize the 4 provisional ballots be counted from the September 12, 2023 primary election. Second by Mr. McCafferty. Any other unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. It is so ordered. Thank you. On the candidate and petition services, I move to acknowledge the appointment to elected office of Tracy Justice, Richmond Heights City Council member of Council Ward 1.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCafferty. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. The chair recognizes Mr. Steve Dell. Morning, Mr. Dell.
Morning.
Steve Bell, Supervisor, CPS. Well, as the report, our report of the EIP voting and the review of the staff indicates was a smooth and we have a solid and reliable team. There were 12 full-time temporary employees, and we had 4 part-time that filled in and cover lunch period. And on the weekends, we had 6 extra full-time staff from registration and CPS to help out with the extra voters. And I'd also like to point out that there was an editorial by the Plain Dealer about a week after the EIP started, and they, in their editorial, they indicated that the staff was cheerful, welcoming, and helpful, and I would have to agree with that. Everyone adapted to the new equipment that we had, the switching over to the ballot on demand system and the scanners and everything else, the ADA equipment. Everyone did a great job adapting to that. I want to point out a couple highlights mainly just some numbers. We ended up with about 22,000 voters and 656 provisional voters as well. And of those provisional voters, there was 172 that were provisional voters on election day. And we had a lot of other folks that came down here thinking they could vote here, but we sent them all. They were all registered and we sent them out to the polling locations. I'd like to do a little comparison. We used the November 22 election as a good projection point of the number of voters, and we kind of hit that pretty well. There was about 2,000 fewer voters in November, 20,000 roughly. But I also wanted to get at some numbers too that indicate the efficiency of this ballot on demand system. And I thought if you look at the hourly reports that we're doing on Sunday, because that's the day where we've got a lot of people here at 1 o'clock ready to vote and go, full of people, and comparable amount of staff covering things. In that Sunday before the 2022 general election, we were doing about 275 voters an hour. And in August on that Sunday, we did close to 390, and one time, 1 hour we went over 400 voters in an hour. So that just shows how this ballot on demand system is a lot quicker. We're churning the voters out a lot faster, not having to run and pull a ballot off the wall. So it's been quite a success. I just wanted to put that out. Can take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Van Board.
That was very good.
No question.
This was a good test run for November because you had such a high volume of turnout. So I'm sure that will give you confidence as we go into the next election that we're ready and that we're robust and can handle a November primary and then going into a presidential. So I think it was a good test for us.
One caveat, one difference that November one challenge that in addition we'll have is the fact that it'll be a much longer ballot.
Yes.
One thing that I think helped to the efficiency, and I totally agree with what Steve is saying, but also when it was one issue, most people already knew how they were going to vote. They came in and once staff was able to get that ballot to them, they were able to get out very quickly. In the voting location, early in person, we'll try to amp up the number of booths that we have there, but again, we're limited by space. And also it'll probably be a little bit more challenging with parking because people will be on our premises longer because they're going to be filling out the ballot. So all of that to say, we are looking forward and trying to make preparations for November, but we'd be interested to see how it plays out.
Right. But I do think August gives us a really good foundation to build on, and that we can add those other steps of multiple page ballots and some other things as we move along. So thank you. Board, any other comments or questions from Mr. Bell? No. Yes, Mr. McCaffrey.
No.
Okay, good report. All right, then I will move to acknowledge the early in-person voting PEO performance report from the August 8th, 2023 special election. Second by Mr. McCaffrey. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, and the chair recognizes Ms. Shaquita Walker. Morning.
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 I'm the Walker Section Manager. So before you should have received the draft of our 24-25 budget we are set to submit. I'm gonna do a slide. So what I provided is kind of the timeline of the budget process. So we originally met with our Office of Budget Management representative from the county executive, kind of went over our base budget, what they determined our number should be on our previous spend, and had a conversation about some of the things that we wanted to go forward with, and just some of our thoughts on the additional numbers that were provided. We came and had a meeting, going to present with you the budget, the draft. Ultimately, we want you to look it over, any questions you have for us, comments. we want to go through that dialogue and then hopefully get your approval at the upcoming next meeting.
Okay.
We met with. After your approval, it go to downtown to the Office of Budget Management. They're gonna review what we submit. Have a meeting with the county executive to prepare the actual final budget to go before county council. The county council have their first reading on October 10th, once they get the budget for the whole entire county. After they get it, there are gonna be a series of meetings, with each department to go over their budget. Our meeting is, currently set for November 2nd. That's when the light will go and, present the budget to county council. Ultimately, after all of the meetings and county council reviews and everybody's submission, the adoption should take place on December 5th. So our overall budget recommendation for this budget cycle is 19 million for 2024, that being a presidential election year. It's an increase of about 1.9 million from 22, which was a gubernatorial election. The total recommendation for 2025 is 16 million, which is a municipal year, which is an increase of approximately 156,000 from this 2023 municipal year. We want to note that the nature of our business causes our budget to be not only looked at the previous budget cycle, but we have to go back 4 years to that most previous election, similar to that current cycle. So we want to just go over, we met with you all, introduce kind of our new initiatives I want to present. I want to keep the new initiatives kind of limited, as our ultimate goal will be a new operation center. So we were modest in our ask, with one being a new Agilis equipment system. That's the valid processor. We want to get the Agilis head, which is 2 sorting trays, and then an additional set of trays to go with it. The primary goal of this is to reduce the increase in redundant plan. For if for whatever reason, the original Agilis should go down. In addition, this would increase our output process of going into the presidential, having an additional setup so that our staff can process in a more timely fashion. Our second initiative is the increased wages of our seasonal employees. We want to remain competitive. Our current increase, we just did in this last budget cycle, maintain the current staff that we have. We want to increase the $15 an hour rate, 25 cents for 2024, and then increase the rate of another 25 cents to $15.50 for 2025. Our third initiative, as you know, we've been awarded funds to acquire new electronic poll books and equipment to go with that. We had a conversation with the county. They seemed receptive to giving us the funds. We've had a conversation with our vendor tenant, so we're kind of in the ballpark looking at approximately $1 million. So with our award that we received from the state of $821,000, the $250,000 from the county will get us where we need to be to complete that purchase. We're going to meet with our OEM person to see what the process is. We'll probably have to do the procurement at 23 to get a lead time to have them process for us, but it won't be paid for it until the process is out of our 24 budget. And our last new initiative is the election cycle overtime. It was originally done in 2020, and we just recently did it for August, and it was beneficial. We're looking to do it for the 3 countywide elections throughout this budgeting cycle, and that helps, give incentive to the staff for their overtime hard work and monitor, maintain, the time, since a lot of staff are not able to utilize the time because elections are back to back. So we want to also include in our budget to continue the previously approved initiatives, maintain the status of quality work that we're doing right now. We purchased all our new equipment. We want to maintain our budget, the necessary fundings for the licensing and maintenance of all the new equipment we purchased, that being the Agilis, the OPEX, our Pitney Bowes equipment, to continue to streamline our vote by mail and early in-person processes. Our second goal we want to maintain is the offsite retention. We may need to look into leasing offsite space, contingent upon where we're going to be with the outcome. We've had some public records requests that requires us to maintain files that can be destroyed longer than necessary, and then going into the countywide cycles, we're gonna need more storage space. Seeing as though, again, we're not knowing what the outcome will be, we want to maintain budget for maintenance projects, keep our building, we just got our new carpet installed, if we're gonna be here, we want to continue with upgrading the work environment for our staff. And finally, our cybersecurity enhancements, we know we just got a directive in August of this year. We're continually want to make sure we have the school social necessary to monitor whatever comes out of the state. So those just the brief overview of the things that are pertinent in the budget. Any questions that you have at this time, I'm open to answer. Otherwise, we can proceed as you go forward with the review.
It was a great review.
Yeah, very good, very clear
Yeah.
and concise. Thank you.
Mhm.
Right. More of the business for Ms. Walker?
No.
Well, thank you so much, and we will continue this dialogue. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, on to our human resources agenda. I move to acknowledge the resignation of Elia Burgos from Community Outreach Coordinator in the Community Outreach Department effective 9/25/2025. And note for the record, appreciation for her service to the Board of Elections, and wish her well as she moves forward. And I also move to acknowledge the addendum here in order to effectively administer the November 7th, 2023 election. Cuyahoga County Board of Elections will observe Veterans Day, Friday, November 10th, 2023 on an alternate date. And the Board of Elections will be open to the public on November 10th, 2023. Veterans Day 2023 will be observed on Tuesday, December 26th, 2023. The CCBOE will be closed to the public on December the 26th. So essentially, Veterans Day will be celebrated the day after Christmas, which incidentally is my birthday. So you get my birthday. So I put that motion before us. Is there a second? All right. Thank you, Mr. McCafferty.
Good choice.
Thank you. He seconds my birthday being.
There you go.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. It is so ordered. Deputy Director Gallagher, new business. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Board. Just a few updates on a few items. An update to the voter cancellation, just as a little bit of a background. In 2019, we sent out letters to voters who had not had any voter activity for the previous 2 years, or that we were notified that from the U.S. Postal Service that they had moved to another state. We sent out those letters. Fast forward 4 years later, any of those voters who had not had any voter activity, in March, we received a directive from the Secretary of State instructing us on how to send out a last chance letter to those voters, and then also with instructions to cancel them in July. But then because of the August 8th election, that cancellation date got pushed back to the end of this month to September 27th. And for us, registration department was making preparations, processing any registration cards that we had in-house, as well as resolving any duplicates between us and other counties. Just prior to the September 12th election, we received notice from the Secretary of State's office that any county having a September election cannot proceed with the end of the month cancellation. Even though for us it was a small election, we had made registration, had worked out a process to be able to accurately execute it, but we understand, as an overall process, it was best to push that date back. So we are currently awaiting instructions from the Secretary of State's office as far as the alternate timelines. At this point, we're looking at maybe about 3,600 voters are currently scheduled to be canceled. If for some reason they can always be re-registered, there's they change their mind. As far as an election update for the November 7th general election, the ballot department had completed the final round of proofing of the ballot language. Yesterday, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that there was a slight change in the language on the ballot from, citizens of the state to either the state or state of Ohio.
Very small.
So although it's a very small change, it still means because of the thoroughness that our ballot department takes, we actually have to go from the beginning and reproof the entire
Okay.
ballot, okay, just to make sure that nothing else has changed or shifted. So on Thursday, the ballot board will meet to accept the change in language. We're expecting by the end of the day tomorrow that the Ohio Secretary of State's office will issue a directive and a sample ballot to us. We will then take that language, we have to get it translated because of our bilingual requirements here in Cuyahoga County. And then it will have to be reproofed. So the ballot department will be again working through the weekend. And we hope by sometime early next week that they would be able to get that finalized. Now, this Friday is the deadline for, or the date that we are required to send out the Yokava ballots. So we're waiting for instructions from the Secretary of State's office exactly how that should be handled with this change taking place. So there's several options that they can do. I don't want to speculate which route they'll go with it, but you know, one thing that every department in our agency is become unfortunately accustomed to is change and last minute things. So they will press through it and get it done as they always have. We currently have about 500 Yokava voters, military and overseas, who are currently slated to get that ballot. Just as a side note, we also have about 6,000 applications for regular vote by mail for the November election at this time.
Total, you mean?
6,000.
Oh, 6,000, okay.
6,000 for regular vote by mail,
Okay.
plus the 500 Yokava.
Okay, thank you.
Which we expect that to increase. But again, those 6,000 applicants, they will not be getting their ballot until October 11th. So we try to make that clear to voters that we don't send out the ballots until the close of registration and early voting begins.
Okay,
The poll worker department this past weekend, they started what I would call phase one of poll worker training. So basically everybody who worked the August election and were trained on the new laws regarding House Bill 458, as well as the new voting equipment, they received what we call a lessons learned training, where things that we just kind of learned through the August election, as far as a bin change that we have, and some things as far as ballot jams and stuff, first steps that they can take. Next week, they'll start training people who did not work in the August election, and they will receive the full training as well. So this past weekend, they had about 550 people were here at this building, and they had several classes and worked through it. One other update regarding the November election is parking. We have received word from the county that they have been able to acquire the old Bryan and Stratton parking lot. So we will be able to utilize that for this November election. It's kind of which is great because we will need it. We're expecting more turnout. And again, the most challenging aspects and the reason we're hoping to get a new facility is because of parking. And we were fortunate that this building right now, though, has been rented by another department. Things worked out and we were able to kind of get it in, but this only lasts until February as far as their control on that. So again, I think it just to emphasize the fact that we are looking to get a new facility, because come March, come next November, we can't count on getting that space, and we do anticipate much greater early in-person voting, and we have seen an increase in early in-person voting across the board. So and then one final note is yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. Our Community Outreach and Registration Department set up a drive-through registration station out in our parking lot. People could drive in and registered to vote. In addition, we had Jeff and Yulia and several other members of the community outreach department were at several libraries, also promoting it as well. So all in all, that's our current updates.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Any questions for Deputy Director? Yes,
Just quick, I was just thinking, see, we have new scanners. And there were some jamming issues, not many. I assume this is going to be mostly multiple page ballots.
Yeah, the real jamming issue didn't occur with the feeding of the ballots. The jamming issue occurred with when the cash register type tape report was coming out. So we actually have already made fortunately, one thing with the September election, although it was small, we found that we had come up with kind of a patchwork solution that we thought to that register tape jamming up. And we found that that really wasn't effective. So what we're going to do is when our moving company takes the voting equipment to the new location or to the voting location, we have people who chase that move and make sure that the correct equipment was delivered to that polling location. They're going to be instructed to install a brand new roll of paper at that time, because the problem is when the machine is being transported, it starts to unwind and almost, I was able to get pictures and actually see it. It's almost like a spring unwinds inside, and then that creates a lot of slack in there. And then when it goes to print out, it ends up kind of binding up that material. So it's a design that will need to be addressed by, or a solution that needs to be addressed by Clear Ballot. However, we're confident that this will be a good solution for November. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to clarify that, Jerry. So it is not an issue with feeding the ballot. So we kind of want the public to know it's not with that. It's just printing the zero reports and the end of the day reports as well.
Okay.
I know there'll be a lot of voters trying to put 2 sheets in
Well, yeah.
machines, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and we, as you know, as a
Yeah.
board, we do have somebody stationed there to help instruct voters as well. Yeah,
I need a big sign. Yeah, 1 sheet at a time.
yeah.
And that's also part of our probably voter education. As
Yeah.
we move that, hey, it's a 2-page ballot, one at a time.
Correct.
Yeah. So with the tape inside though, is it possible, I mean, just to not have it transport with it in there and then make it something that is part of the checklist then? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so we will
Yeah.
transport it without the paper
That makes
roll in
sense.
there, and then the team that goes behind to verify that the proper equipment was delivered, they will be the ones who will install the
That
new
makes
roll.
sense.
So this way you'll have a few people who are well crafted doing it rather than training all 4,000 poll workers.
That makes
on How to
sense.
do
Okay.
it, so,
All right,
and then as they do it and they go location to location, they'll get much more efficient with putting that roll in
And the
there.
election, they have the rovers and some other support people. that-
Yeah, who will also,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, anything else? All right, the chair has not received any requests for public comment and hearing none. There's no executive session, so I will move to go into recess.
I'll second you.
Second by Ms. Stickland, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
great day.